Hello, today I am going to talk about anti-hauls, things I will not be buying. Let's get into it. Alright, the first thing I want to talk about is the new ColourPop Sailor Moon palette. It's really pretty. There's some pastels and glitters. It's pretty. I'm not a Sailor Moon fan. I've never seen it. I don't know what it's all about. I will not be purchasing this. It's pretty. I haven't watched any reviews for it, but I think if you're into Sailor Moon, it's certainly worth it. It's cute packaging. If you are into the colors, get it, but I think those colors are easy to find in a lot of places. Although pastels are not that easy to come by, you can still get them. Speaking of pastels, the other thing I will not be purchasing are the Huda Beauty Pastel Obsession palettes. There is a mint, a rose, and a lilac. And I feel like they're pretty boring, honestly. The kind of transition colors that there's in there, the kind of beigey brown tan colors, it looks like the same color in all of the palettes. So they just took what they already made and shoved it into these three different palettes. It does have this sort of zebra stripe swirly shadow in there. That's neat, but that's not, that's not anything. That's not going to sell a palette to me because that effect doesn't show up on the eye or anything. It just blends into one color. So I feel like the Huda Pastel Obsessions are not that exciting. If I am going to get excited about pastel palettes, I would go with the ColourPop one. So there's the Mint to Be, which is the mint green one, and the Lilac You a Lot, which is purple, but it does have a rosy tone in there. I can't find a dupe for the Huda Rose palette in the ColourPop lineup. And really ColourPop is lacking when it comes to pastel pinks. So get on that, people. But otherwise, I think the better buy is the mint palette and the lilac palette. They are $12 for ColourPop, whereas the Huda Beauty ones, 27, 29, 28, something like that. So the ColourPop, I feel like, is a better buy for your money, and the Huda ones are just boring. A few other palettes that I want to talk about that are new on the Sephora websites are the Benefit Cheek Stars palette. This is a palette of 5 of Benefit's best-selling cheek products like Hoola, Dallas, Sugar Bomb. What am I missing? The Benefit palette is $60 for these 5 shades and a little brush. I really don't think it's worth $60. Those 3 brownish toned, bronzery toned ones are so similar. I think one has shimmer, one doesn't. It's just really not that impressive. There's a highlighter and then the Sugar Bomb blush, and the highlighter is basically the color of half of the blush. So I don't see the point of it. I've actually never used any of these products anyways. I used to use Benefit, used to be into them, but it's just not something I use anymore. So for $60, I really don't think it's worth it. Another expensive palette is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk palette. It's pretty. I think it's pretty. The colors are nice. They're neutral. But the palette itself is $75. And I know that Charlotte Tilbury's a higher end brand, a more expensive brand, but it's just these colors are so dupable. You can get them anywhere. You can get them in the drugstore in a good formula. So I've never tried anything Charlotte Tilbury, but let me know if it's worth that money, because I would be interested in knowing that. So those are my 2 expensive palettes that are on my mind. Couple other ones. The Urban Decay Wired palette, which is their new pressed pigment palette. to replace the electric palettes is an absolute no. I don't get it. It is basically the electric palette with a couple other like different colors in there. There's a white, whereas the electric palette had a silver. Hang on, I'm gonna grab my electric palette. There she is. I was so obsessed with this when it came out. I loved this palette, and I think it's cool. And at the time that it came out, you couldn't get neons and neat colors and stuff. So it was important for the time that it came out. The colors in here, if you can see, compared to the Wired palette, there are repeats of colors. So this Chaos Blue is in there, Slow Burn is in there, Savage is in there. There is a kind of greeny yellow chartreusey color like that in the Wired palette. I don't know if it's exactly the same. This one's Thrash in the Electric palette. But I just don't understand. I feel like it's a cash grab. Like Urban Decay said, yay, nobody's buying the Electric palette anymore. Let's mess with it a little, rename it, give it new packaging, and make a few bucks. I don't think it's necessary. I will definitely not be buying it. I've got the original one. So why bother? I saw somewhere somebody posted a review or a video, I don't remember where it was, where they were saying, oh, the Wired palette is the sister to the Electric palette. And I just don't think it's true. I think it's redundant, honestly. A couple other palettes I want to talk about. These are a little bit older. They're not as new as the Wired or the Huda Beauty or the Sailor Moon or anything like that. But it is the Anastasia Beverly Hills new Amrezi palette. I just feel like it's nothing special. There's a pretty blue in it and there's a pretty pink, but again, you can get those colors in a lot of different brands. The rest of it is really unremarkable. So, I was disappointed. I think that there's so much potential and it just was a dud. And it reminds me of the first ABH Amrezi palette, which was, when was it? 2014 or 16 or something? I just looked it up and I don't remember. That was so boring. There was a nice purple in it, maybe a green, I think. But I remember when that came out, I was just like, what? They're hyping up this collab, and it was just so boring. So I feel like the Amrezi palette for 2020 is kind of boring too. Like, I'm not impressed at all. The last palette I want to talk about from Sephora that's out is the Violet Voss Sweet Violet fun-sized eyeshadow palette, something like that. It's a really pretty purple palette with some blue, I think, and some pinks. Honestly, I just feel like there's not enough variation in the tones. Sure, you have variation in the finishes. There's mattes, there's shimmers, there's glitters. But if you look at the swatches of the palette, it's basically the same color with different finishes, and that's really disappointing. It could have been so much more of, a purple palette, with darks and lights and pinks and blues and stuff, and really it's just pans of, mid to dark purple. So I wasn't impressed with that. So if I total up the savings of what I'm not buying, I'm not going to do that. I'm kidding. That would be hundreds of dollars. A couple of things I am interested in purchasing, like I talked about, the Mint to Be from ColourPop, the Lilac You A Lot from ColourPop. They actually have a rainbow palette from ColourPop, which I might just buy that instead of all the separates. Although the rainbow doesn't have the mint green. Conundrum. My birthday's coming up. Maybe I'll just ask for all of it for my birthday, and then I don't have to pay for it. Anyways, let me know what you think. What do you like? What are you going to buy? What are you not going to buy? Thank you for watching.